All right. Well, welcome everybody. As I noted, we just hit record, so we're recording this session. This is an opportunity to hear from Catherine Mitchell, who heads up the Brooks, about the Brooks at 6 months. And so, Catherine, happy anniversary to you. I believe today is actually the day.
Today is the day.
So happy anniversary, 6 months. That's quite the way to get started here. I'm going to not say much because mostly you all want to hear from Catherine. So I'm going to turn it to Jean-Michel right now so that he can maybe say a few words of introduction, and then it is over to you, Catherine.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being online this afternoon with us to celebrate the first 6 months at the Brooks. Thank you for your support. We've had a really high level of support from the community for the Brooks, so we appreciate you very much. Catherine and the team, happy anniversary. And Catherine, congratulations on receiving the 2020 Human Services Heroes Award from DHS for your excellent work in opening the Brooks during the pandemic. That's wonderful. Over to you, Catherine.
Hi, thanks, Jean-Michel, and thanks everyone for joining us today. My name, like they said, is Catherine Mitchell. I'm the Chief Family Transitional Services Officer here at Friendship Place and the Director of the Brooks. It's crazy to think we just started this 6 months ago. Feels like a lifetime and a blink at the same time. But we are really proud to share what we've been able to accomplish so far in this project. So I'm not sure if folks attended the last session that we had a couple months ago. So I will start off by just sharing a little bit about the Brooks and short-term family housing in general. So as many of you probably know, the city has opened short-term family housing sites in each ward of the city after closing DC General Shelter a few years ago. So the Brooks is the Ward 3 short-term family housing site, and I think we're the 6th or the 7th to open. So several other sites have been open and operating for the last couple years. But we were really excited to be awarded this contract in January. And we had a couple months to get our whole team together and get up and running. And we opened our doors six months ago to the day in the middle of the pandemic. So very interesting journey we've had so far. Our team, sorry, the lights just went out in here. Our team consists of myself as the director, and we have an operations team and a program team, as we are responsible for running the site and the program 24 hours a day. So on the operations side, we have our operations manager, Ace Thompson, who oversees our assistant operations manager, residential aid coordinator, and our shift supervisors and residential aides, who are responsible for staffing the program 24/7. So they're here on site just to make sure that residents have what they need. They help serve our meals. They help ensure the safety and well-being of the families on site. We also have security 24/7. So we have our security team. We have at least 2 officers on every shift. Just here to be of support, to help in de-escalating any situations that might arise and provide a presence to ensure everything goes smoothly in the building. We also have a janitorial team who do a wonderful job of not only just keeping the space clean, but also are doing in-depth cleaning to prevent the spread of coronavirus. So they've done a remarkable job of getting those high-touch areas and making sure the outside of the building on our property is upkept and looking great. So the building obviously is brand new, and we want to keep it as shiny and pristine as possible. And our janitorial team does a phenomenal job of doing that. But our program team is the heart and soul of what we do here. So we have a social worker on staff in addition to myself. I'm also a licensed independent clinical social worker. We have a case manager, supervisor, and 3 case managers on our team. We have a housing navigator to help us identify units for families to move into. And then our newest addition to the team is we have just brought on our child and youth specialist. So we're super excited to have a staff member devoted to looking out for our children. Did we lose video here? Okay, I think we're back.
There you are. Your camera's back.
Okay. So we're super excited to have a child and youth specialist just to offer some targeted programming for the youth in our program and support families who may have youth that have special needs or specific barriers or challenges that they need a little bit of extra support in overcoming. But the goal of our program is to not only provide a safe and hygienic and stable environment for families who are experiencing homelessness, but most importantly, to move families into housing within 90 days. That is a difficult thing to accomplish, but we are very, very proud to say that it's working. And we're 6 months in, and we were a little nervous about that time frame that was the kind of set for us. But overall, the numbers last month showed that 85% of our families who have exited within 90 days, and the average length of stay is 55 days. So it's working. We're doing it. Obviously, everyone's journey is different. So we know that there will be some families who have more barriers or certain things going on that 90 days just isn't going to do it. But a lot of families are incredibly motivated and are making moves and are getting out there. We were also concerned about how the pandemic was going to impact the housing search. But what we found is actually there are a lot of units out there, and our participants are out there checking them out or doing virtual viewings and are moving forward. So we're super excited. I see a question, how many families have come through the Brooks so far? We've served just about 70 families. So that is a number lower than we thought. I think we are learning about how families are accessing services during the pandemic. I think probably the biggest factor of all of that is there's been a moratorium on evictions. So families for several months could not be evicted from their apartments. So that's a good thing, but that also has contributed to the numbers that we're seeing coming through the Brooks. So if and when that moratorium is lifted, we do expect to see an increase in the number of families that we are serving. But the Brooks has 50 units available to families, so we can serve up to 50 families. We have some extra large families that are occupying 2 rooms that are adjoining in the middle, kind of like a hotel room. So we can expect to serve probably between, I would say, 45 and 50 families once we're at our full capacity. I think, what else have we done? We are working on, after getting the program up and running, we have started to focus on what else can we do to support families. It's a really challenging time for all of us, but particularly for families who are being encouraged to stay at home because of the pandemic, and home for them is a room at the Brooks. So we're looking at how we can support families in staying occupied, entertained, and explore what recreation looks like in this new environment that we're all living in. So thanks to the donors who have supported our wish list, we have a Child's Play and Amazon wish list. We are able to offer board games, toys, those types of things for families to come in. So families get their pick of a few items as they come in, as well as we have tons and tons of books available. Thank you to the Ward 3 Dems. We were gifted over 1,000 books before we even had one family in here. So that's awesome. And we have been distributing those to families as they come through, which is really exciting. But we are also exploring ways to see what else we can offer to families with keeping social distancing in mind. So thanks to more generous support from the community, we've been able to offer ice cream trucks and food trucks have come through the Brooks and offer families a treat on top of what we already provide in terms of breakfast and dinner. So we had an ice cream truck come a few times, as well as DC Pudding, which is a food truck, and they serve things like gumbo and red beans and rice and stuff like that. And it was delicious, and the residents really enjoyed that. So it was nice to do something a little bit different. And we look forward to continuing to work with those who are interested to support those types of endeavors. We're also working on a partnership with the Homeless Children's Playtime Project. You might have heard from them. They've been working in city shelters for years and years and years. And what they do is they bring in volunteers to come on site to the shelters to offer playtime for the children. So that gives the parents a break. It gives the children fun activity to do, and it gives a great way for volunteers to get engaged. Of course, because of COVID-19, bringing in volunteers is not the best idea at this point. But we are still working with Homeless Children's Playtime Project to see how can we collaborate in this new normal and see, what we can do to support the residents. So they've come on site a few times just to introduce themselves to our residents and explore ways that our residents can get connected. They'll actually be joining us on site again on Friday as we prepare for Halloween. We'll be hosting some social distancing events where families can come in one by one and do a little bit of a trick-or-treating type of thing. We're also providing paint-a-pumpkin kits and offering supplies to help families decorate their doors to be festive for this holiday. And so Homeless Children's Playtime Project helped us out by referring families to get Halloween costumes. So that should be exciting. It'll be very nice to see the kids all dressed up this weekend for Halloween, and just offering support and resources. They're doing at-home play kits, so they'll mail participants who are enrolled with them, boxes of activity kits and play items and a book, I believe, which is a great idea. We love that. And looking forward to exploring what outdoor play might look like. We know that indoor play isn't really advised at this point, having too many people all together, but we do have the opportunity to spread out outside and have some fun time for the kids. So we're looking forward to that. And like I said, with our child and youth specialist on board, we're looking forward to her creativity and just kind of brainstorming what's next. What else can we provide to families? We're interested in doing some game nights, family game nights, and put on different events to support parents and their development in terms of getting prepared to moving back out into their own apartments, but also kids having a fun time, making sure that if kids are in need of extra academic support, that we are connecting them to that or offering that on site if possible, as well as, wellness activities. This is a very stressful time. It's stressful to be in shelter, but it's stressful to experience this pandemic as well. So we're looking into kind of what mindfulness or yoga or those types of activities might look like to offer here at the Brooks. So we kind of feel like the opportunities are endless, and we're just excited for the creativity of our team as well as the support of the community to keep enriching what we're able to do here to support the families. I've talked a lot. I think we can probably take some questions at this point.
Sure. I'll Catherine, it's Chris here, and I'll read through some of the questions in the chat room, and we can flesh out from there. One question from Kay is, how are children supported specifically? You may have spoken a little bit about that, but if you want to say any more about what supports we're providing for the children, this would be a good time.
Definitely. Yeah. So a part of our case management services, we're not just serving the adults or the parent in the house, we're serving the entire family. So as we prepared for school starting, we, checked in with each family. What school are you enrolled in? And we got some information if families have any children with special needs, IEPs, 504 plans, those types of things. Our case managers have been in touch with the schools, with the families, just to ensure that any issue that might crop up is taken care of. We supported each family in ensuring that they had their distance learning devices and worked with the schools to make that connection. We also provided school supplies, headphones, those types of things to make sure that students had what they need as well. But we worked with some families based off of what the needs are. We referred families to pregnancy centers for resources for expecting moms or new moms. We're referring to places like Bright Beginnings or other resources that are out there to help mom and small children in their development. Some families have expressed concerns about their child's development. Maybe they're not hitting their milestones as expected. So we're referring to our DCPS partners there for school-age children, as well as I think it's early stages for those who are younger, just to get an assessment and make sure that children are getting the support that they need if they're a little bit behind in their milestones. But we've also referred families to mental health resources. Children of all ages and adults of all ages are sometimes in need of that additional support of a therapist or a counselor. So we have been successful in referring folks and their children to those support services as needed.
Great. Next question. We know that pretty much children of any range are at the Brooks. Is there an age range in particular that you've seen more children? Is there a bulge in one age group, or is it really spread across 0 to 18?
We tend to see younger kids. So even under 3 we've seen, but I would say probably from 0 to third grade are the typical age range that we see. But we have, someone who's turning 18 next month, and we have teenagers and middle schoolers and every age, but mostly younger families.
Great. Next question talks about interactions with the neighborhood. I'll interject also here. We actually have several neighborhood groups that have been really stepped forward and helped lead some of the support for the Brooks. I'll drop the website from one of them in there, but I'll in the chat here. But if you'd like to speak a little bit to where we stand now with neighborhood interaction, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. I think we have been incredibly supported by the community, both financially as well as with the enthusiasm of what we're doing. We've raised a lot of funds to be able to support the needs and the gaps that come up. Our contract is pretty robust about what we are able to provide to families, but inevitably there are gaps. And so having the flexible funds that we've been able to raise has helped us to more quickly identify the barriers that families are experiencing and be able to address those in terms of application fees, in terms of out-of-state identification, and those types of things. So overall, we are just so grateful to the community for their support. Many on this call probably have heard there's been some not so warm welcome from others in the community. I think the numbers are fewer of the people who are not supportive, but we've had some incidents of racism directed towards our residents in the community and our staff, in fact. And we've had some neighbors who, how should I put this, had some disagreements with how things were happening around the Brooks and the way, people present in the community and those types of things. So it's a part of my role and to engage the community on great things and things that need improvement. And, I appreciate the dialogue with neighbors of just, wanting to help us integrate into the community in a way that supports the dignity and well-being of our residents, but also helps us to be a good neighbor in the community. So I appreciate the dialogue there. And I appreciate the support of the community that has heard about the racist incidents and have really stepped up and have been vocal and engaging their neighbors on, what is right and in support of what we're doing here.
Right. And as I mentioned, I dropped in the website from one of those supportive groups into the chat. If you would like to sign up, get information from them, which is basically information from us, there's a great way to learn more about what's happening. Anne has asked a couple of questions. I'll take these one at a time. Are the children attending school virtually, and how's that working out?
Children are attending school virtually. We have Wi-Fi here, and we've ensured that each family has a device. So we check in with our families regularly about this. We know that it's stressful for all of us to with this new normal and those types of things. So I think the families are doing the best that they can. There's been a few isolated incidents with families maybe not getting online as they should. So we've been connected with the school and with the family to see what are the challenges there and how can we best support the families to make sure that kids are logging on when they can. So overall, I think the families would prefer to be in person. One, it is safe to do so. We'll see what the next couple of weeks brings as DCPS is offering in-person opportunities to families on a lottery system. I think we've heard from our families that Some of them are not comfortable with sending their children back to school, and that's absolutely their call. So it sounds like the virtual learning will continue. But overall, the families are doing the very, very best that they can.
Next question. What wards have families moved to? Where are the families when they leave the Brooks? Where are they going?
I knew that question was going to come up, and I was like, I don't have the numbers on that. But what I will say is that families have moved to all 4 quadrants of the city. So I don't have the specific ward breakdown, but families are being approved for apartments all across the city. So it's not just kind of one area that families move into.
Great. And what is your largest occupancy be? We know where you are. You mentioned where you are today. What's the most number of families you've had?
That's a good question. So we're at about 22 families today, but we have gotten up to, I want to say, about 32 families. So about 2/3 of the way full.
Okay. How are you finding housing? What's the process for that?
Yeah, the process is definitely different than if we weren't experiencing a pandemic. A lot of landlords are doing virtual viewings, so either sending photos or maybe even taking videos and kind of walking through the space like that. Some families are going in person to view the units. Landlords sometimes leave a key or have a lockbox or those types of things to allow families access to units. So it just varies. But the process would be, looking online. The main criteria that families are looking for is obviously, what's the rent amount and what are the bedroom sizes. But the rent amount has to meet a standard called rent reasonability, and that is set by DC Housing Authority. Even though our families don't have Housing Authority vouchers, DC Housing Authority kind of sets what's the average rent in each neighborhood per bedroom size. So all of that is taken into consideration, and families are awarded, most families have a rapid rehousing subsidy. So they will receive 1 year of financial assistance in paying their rent. And then at the end of 1 year, they will be transitioning to paying full market rent. There are some opportunities for families to be awarded a voucher, either a targeted affordable housing voucher, which doesn't involve specific case management, or a permanent supportive housing voucher, which we have a permanent supportive housing program here at Friendship Place as well. So it just depends on the family's needs, the eligibility, the availability of resources, and those types of things. But folks will search for housing that meets that rent reasonability criteria. They'll apply if there's an application process. Once they're approved, we collect we call it the Landlord Packet. It's basically all the information about the landlord, the unit, etc. The unit is inspected by the Community Partnership and Housing Authority and once it passes inspection, the families will be given a date to sign their lease and can move in.
All right. Next question is about volunteer opportunities with Project Homeless Children's Playtime. What are those opportunities that our congregational representatives or other community volunteers might be able to engage with?
Well, right now, due to the public health emergency, we are not really having volunteers coming into the Brooks. We know that there's a lot of enthusiasm and interest in volunteering, and we can't wait to have everybody when it's safe to do so. But at this time, we're not doing that. But as soon as Homeless Children's Playtime Project is moving forward with wanting to come out or being able to come out to provide playtime, there's a whole application process with them. Of course, anybody who comes into the Brooks will need to have background check clearances just to ensure the safety of our children. But Homeless Children's Playtime Project will handle that for their volunteers. And then there's a whole training curriculum that Homeless Children's Playtime Project does. And then once we're ready to go, we will invite volunteers who've been through that process to come on board and join us for playtime.
Are there families still living in shelters or hotels who have not yet been placed in short-term facilities such as the Brooks? So are there families still waiting really to get into facilities like ours throughout the city?
There's no wait list for short-term family housing. We have vacancies. So if families need support, they should call Virginia Williams Family Resource Center, who assesses if the family is eligible for short-term family housing. There's certain criteria that needs to be met. Specifically, obviously, that they need to be a family, so a parent with at least one minor child or a pregnant woman in her third trimester. But they also have to have literally nowhere to go that night. There are several other programs that the city offers that can support families towards stabilizing their housing stability or preventing a shelter stay, like the homeless prevention program. So if someone says, well, I can stay with a family member or a friend, then they would not be eligible for shelter because they have somewhere else that they can stay. But there isn't anybody who's kind of waiting to be approved for short-term family housing. If a family is eligible and they need it, there are units available at this time.
Great. What sort of training opportunities do we have for the parents, such as employment training, literacy, financial literacy? What are we able to offer, and what are we hoping to offer as the pandemic lifts is probably the best way to describe that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, financial literacy, those kind of life skill classes are a big priority for us when it's safe to do so, of course, is the big caveat. But we're talking with our families about budgeting, about what type of income would you need in order to sustain this rent after your year of subsidy is exhausted. And one of the ways that we're working with families is most families receive TANF, temporary assistance for needy families, which is income related to raising their kids. So the city provides that. But many of our families who receive TANF are eligible or required to engage with a TANF employment provider. We call that a TEP provider. And the majority of our families are already connected to one. But if they're not, the Brooks itself is partnering with one of the TEP providers, Grant Associates, in a pilot program. So we're the first short-term family housing site to do this, to refer all of the Brooks families who are eligible for TANF employment provider to one provider. The reason for that is we often find that there's a lot of barriers for participants to engage with a TANF employment provider. Lots of reasons why sometimes that isn't as effective. But the idea is while they're with us, we can help, we know where they are, they're here in our building. So we can help eliminate those barriers that families have to engaging with their TEP provider. They will be assigned to Grant Associates, and we'll collaborate with Grant Associates. They'll receive a case manager from Grant Associates, and they'll work with their case manager here at Friendship Place. And the goal of TANF employment providers is to work with families on educational opportunities, employment opportunities, vocational certifications. So whatever the person's goal is, the TANF employment provider has access to resources to support the participant with that. They also incentivize participation. So folks can receive an additional bonus or incentive, extra money from TANF by participating in these activities that promote their vocational, educational, or employment goals. So that's just one of the ways, but we talk about it from day one. This is a 90-day program, so it's often challenging for families to increase their income in 90 days, but their goal is by 1 year, after 1 year in the rapid rehousing program, what kind of progress can be made to get your income to a place where it might be more affordable to sustain rent. So case management is talking about that from day one. We're referring to places like Aim Hire, which is Friendship Place's employment program, Department of Employment Services, any sort of educational or vocational opportunity that we know whatever participants are interested in, we support them in getting closer to their goals.
Great. Follow-up question on education. Obviously, it's different with the virtual learning, but are the children primarily enrolling at John Eden, or are they staying connected to the schools that they may have been with previously? How does that break down?
The vast majority are enrolling in the schools that they were previously in, but we do have a handful of students who are enrolled at John Eaton or Deal. I don't think we have any students at Wilson.
Great. We talked a little bit about neighborhood interactions. Is there anything more that we as a community, and meaning that the folks on the call, can do to help encourage it being a welcoming community to the residents?
That's a great question, and I really appreciate it. I think one of the things that I would call on the community to do, obviously, as a society, as a nation, we have a lot of work to do in this area. So I don't think it's a specifically Ward 3 because of the Brooks opening. I think we call on all of us to explore what biases we have, explore the way our society is structured, why folks in certain areas have less or more opportunity than other folks. So really that's my call to the community, is to do that internal exploration and move into the action phase of how can we push our society to be more equitable, to be more just, to move us to a place where homelessness doesn't exist because our society is equitable and fair and opportunity is extended to all of us. So that's probably not the answer the person was looking for, but that's truly what I think will kind of move the needle into improving our society into a place where places like the Brooks may not be needed, because we have what we need, and families have what they need, and individuals have what they need to be supported, to have opportunity, and to move onward and upwards.
Very good point. Also, I should point out that recognizing the importance of this work as an organization, Friendship Place has launched a 4-part workshop series on anti-racism training. And I'm going to drop a link in the chat room to a YouTube video of the first session. The next session is, I believe it's a week from tomorrow, and then we'll do it every 2 weeks, I believe, after that. If you're interested in signing up, drop me an email at crutledge, and I'll put you in touch or get you signed up so that you're online for the next session. But that link that I just put in the chat room should take you to a video of the first session. This way you'll be caught up. Next question: Are there services at the Brooks different than services at other family shelters in other parts of the city?
Excuse me. The short answer is no. We all have the same contract. We all, the idea is that we're providing, we have the same structure, we have the same setup, the same goals. So it shouldn't matter where a family, if they call Virginia Williams in need of short-term family housing, whether they're referred to Ward 3 versus Ward 8, Ward 5. We across the board, we all have the same mission, the same goals, and those types of things. But every provider has the opportunity to place their own spin on the way that that's provided. So whatever, outside of the basic, shelter services or meal services or program services, each provider kind of does their own thing about what extra they are doing to support families. And each provider is doing extra to support families. So there are little differences, but in general, the idea is that it's the same, whether you are in Ward 3, Ward 5, Ward 2, or Ward 2, they don't have one, but 7, 8, it's all the same.
Thank you. Is it helpful to donate gently used coats, hats, gloves to kids and parents as the weather cools?
Thank you for asking that question. In general, we are in need of hats, coats, gloves, those types of things. But because the Brooks is brand new, and because of the public health emergency, we are asking for new items. We also don't really have the capacity for a clothing closet here. So we're trying to be very careful about what we do accept, because we don't really have the space to kind of maintain a lot of items. But yes, very much so. Families are already asking for those kind of colder weather clothing items.
Next comment is actually for me. It's a link to Neighbors of the Brooks. And so if you want to check that out, that's a great opportunity to stay engaged in your community there. Question after that: how are we engaged with the local ANC?
It's a great question. I feel like I have Chairperson Nancy McWood on speed dial. I'm talking with her almost every week. But I, as a part of my role as the director of the Brooks, I also participate in the ANC meetings. So if you're on those calls, you'll see me there too.
Great. So as we've mentioned, the neighbors have been very generous in creating a discretionary fund. Does that discretionary fund provide what you need to provide families with unexpected needs?
Yes, we've been able to have the flexibility to fill those gaps as they arise. So thank you to everybody who contributed. As we continue to serve families and as more and more families come in, as the pandemic continues and these challenges continue, we'll continue to see a need for that type of funding. So please continue to contribute, and thank you so much to everybody who has. It's really been remarkable.
Well, thank you. We know there were some building glitches during the shakedown period. Are all the apartments up and running at this point?
Yes. Thank you for asking that question. I was just reflecting on that major flood we had in the building, but everything's all good. The contractors did a really, really great job of cleaning everything up. We made sure that there wasn't going to be any lasting damage or concerns to the furniture and those types of things. So we are working closely with our maintenance contractors who are on site, as well as, most everything is under warranty since we are brand new. So the original developers, the original contractors are on site regularly to address the needs that come up. So all of our units are up and running and ready for families.
Great. I think you may have discussed this a little bit, but you may want to talk a little bit more. Are the school-age children doing remote learning from their own rooms with parental supervision, or are they able to work in larger communal rooms with social distancing?
Both. So I think we're seeing families in their rooms for whatever reason, but I'm in a study right now. So it's a room available with multiple tables, and folks can use this space to do whatever they would like to do in terms of distance learning or, arts and crafts or homework or what have you. And our community spaces, like our community rooms on each floor, are also available. We have seen families utilize those spaces for distance learning. We have, a sign-up system just to make sure. We obviously can't have everybody on a floor in one room due to social distancing. So we have a sign-up system. We have a computer lab as well. All folks have their own devices, so they haven't had much of a need for the computer lab space, but it's available as well.
Great. Are there special events or donation opportunities for the Thanksgiving or winter holidays?
Yes, and thank you for asking. So we are working with Chris Kennedy. I'm not sure if he's on the call, but from our development team, he is our go-to guy for these types of initiatives. So families here at the Brooks don't have access, unfortunately, to kitchen spaces. They do have mini fridges and they do have microwaves, but they're not going to be able to prepare the Thanksgiving turkey or those types of things. We will be providing a Thanksgiving dinner, but we know that families will want to visit their family members elsewhere or friends or who their network for the holidays and celebrate with them. So what we're asking is, if donors are so inclined, our families would really love grocery gift cards to be able to contribute to whatever holiday meal they might be participating in, or to be able to have what they need here at the Brooks if they're celebrating here. So that would be our ask for Thanksgiving. And then for holidays, Christmas, Friendship Place for several years has worked with our wonderful congregations and donors who support us to do adopt a family or adopt a child in terms of providing holiday gifts. And so we will be very excited to provide that to families here at the Brooks. The trouble is that families are in and out within 90 days. So the families who are here today, more often than not, will not be here on Christmas Day or around Christmas. However, we'll still be connected with them because we continue working with families for up to 60 days after they leave the Brooks. So we will stay tuned for Sign Up Genius. We will be putting wish lists together for all of the children in our program and invite congregations, donors, who's ever interested to adopt a family, just to provide something to make the holiday special for folks here at the Brooks.
Mhm. And in fact, we extend that opportunity to families in our Neighbors First Families program and our Veterans First program, that there are a number of children in those programs as well. So we do have a wish list that we create every year for presents. And so look for that as we get closer. As Catherine had mentioned, the various programs are putting together wish lists now that we'll be able to promote, and folks will be able to buy presents for specific young people that that would benefit from having these gifts come the holidays. So thank you. Next question is, are you anticipating great need once the pandemic eviction moratorium is lifted?
Yes, definitely. I think I saw Jenna Savasco here on the call. She's our program manager of short-term family housing at DHS, and she is expecting that probably around February, if the moratorium is lifted around the deadline that's currently set, around February, we'll see an uptick in the number of families needing access to short-term family housing and those types of services. But I'm pleased to hear that the Department of Human Services is anticipating this as well. And so in addition to supporting the needs of short-term family housing, they're looking to expand other offerings to families. As we know, this will be a unique situation for our neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Next is a comment. Entry in the chat room is actually a comment. To be clear, many of the people who are receiving our services are not necessarily illiterate, but it's probably worth talking a little bit about what services we do have for those who might need some other assistance with literacy. You had mentioned, I think you talked a little bit about that earlier. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to elaborate there.
Yeah, in terms of literacy, we definitely see folks with varying levels of literacy and capabilities when it comes to that. We just opened in the pandemic, and a lot of these adult literacy programs may or may not be operating. But I think what we're finding is that families are so focused on the housing goal and the distance learning this uncharted territory that families are in right now, that it's not to say that prioritizing one's literacy isn't important to families, because I'm sure it is, but that it actually hasn't emerged as a specific need that any of our families have raised. So that might be more of a long-term goal once things are a little bit more settled while they're in their own space, to be able to focus on something like that. But while they're with us, we have encountered situations where families really need support with filling out housing applications, apartment applications. We are carefully reviewing our program rules or applications, or various resources or referrals, just to make sure that families are understanding what information is being provided to them, particularly related to COVID-19, or what are weighing options in terms of what is the DCPS reopening plan looking like, and what are you comfortable with? So while literacy is a certain need for some of our families, the case manager is offering support to ensure the families have the information that they need.
In the interim, can we offer things like soft skills, financial literacy, et cetera, via Zoom to parents?
We can. I think we're seeing a little bit of Zoom fatigue. They're on Zoom with their kids all day, and so by the time school is out, they're wanting to go out, run errands, handle business. But we're definitely exploring how we can present that absolutely vital information to families, despite the current circumstances. So we have an events planning committee, as we call it, which is a cross section of our staff. Various staff in various positions are kind of coming together to reach out to external groups to support our needs, or seeing what we can offer in-house in terms of those types of life skills, type of classes and sessions, as well as the fun stuff too.
Great. For parents who are working, who watches their kids during the day?
It's a varying answer. Some families are two-parent households, so one parent will go to work and one parent will manage the distance learning. Some families have friends or families that they'll take their children to their homes to provide childcare during the day while they might be working. Some parents are single parents here at the Brooks, but the child's other parent is elsewhere, so they navigate childcare in that way. So I would say maybe 15% of our parents are employed. So it's been incredible to see the resiliency that they have and the support networks they have to be able to continue their employment while their children are distance learning.
Great. How is it determined which facility a family would be assigned to?
That's a good question. That's a determination made by Virginia Williams Family Resource Center, but they take into consideration where the children are enrolled in school. Currently, that's not a main factor, but if a child is already enrolled in school in Ward 5 or 3, they'll try to assign the family to that site. Some families say, well, I have 3 appointments a week at such and such provider, and that's in this part of the city. So they'll try to honor that request. Or, my mom or friend watches the children and they live in such and such area. So they try to honor that. But sometimes families don't have those types of restrictions or those needs. And so the assignment is made based off of which site has availability.
Very good. I want to note that Ann Michael, who co-chairs our congregation committee, as does Joel Fishman, they're both on the call here. They will be putting out an Amazon wish list for winter items and presents. So stay tuned for that. We'll certainly promote that once it's up and running. Next question that if residents can't cook in their units, how and where do they eat? Is there a communal dining area?
Yes. So we provide, right now, due to the pandemic, we're providing boxed breakfasts and dinners. So families come down, take their meals, and then head back up to their rooms mostly. But we do have a dining room available. So post-COVID, families will be invited to enjoy their meals in our dining spaces.
Okay, great. And how are you managing COVID screening, particularly as families may come and go to visit friends and other family members?
Yeah, so our security team takes the lead on COVID screening for all staff, all visitors, and all residents. So anyone who enters the Brooks, of course, needs to wear a mask. We have plenty of masks available if anyone is in need. We're doing temperature checks every time anyone comes in, mostly once a day for, if someone's in and out or whatever. But basically, anytime someone walks through the door, that thermometer is out. And we're asking the screening questions of any new or worsening cough, any fever, and have you come in contact with a known positive. So far, that has worked well. We've only had one positive case, and that did not spread to anybody else, staff or residents. So our precautions are working.
Great. And people don't need to self-quarantine if they come and go from to visit families and family members in other parts of the city then?
Nope. Just like we don't need to quarantine if we see our family members or friends.
Understood. No, totally. I
if someone does come, I will say this: if someone travels to a high-risk state, we are asking families to self-quarantine. Not asking, we are requiring families self-quarantine.
And it's worth noting that we as staff at Friendship Place, we do the same thing, that if we're traveling on personal business over a weekend, say, and we're going to one of the states that are identified by Mayor Bowser as being one of the I guess the red states, or the hot button states, we're asked not to come in contact with other staff people for 2 weeks, and we've all been very good about that. I seem to have reached the end of questions at the end of the chat room, but we also happen to be reaching the end of the hour. Are there other questions people might wish to ask at this time? Please feel free to enter it right in the chat there. I saw Ann Morrison gave a kudos to the first of the anti-racism training. So once again, by all means, let me see if I have the same. There we go. I'll redrop that YouTube link to the first session, and somewhere up above, I had put my email address if folks wanted to attend the second, third, and fourth. And let me put my email address in here also, because I could put you in the right place to sign up if you'd like that as well. And somewhere, let me see if I can't find the Child's Play link. I talked about that before also. I want to make sure that we make that available. Here we go. I'll put that back, push that towards the bottom, as it were, of the chat, so that people have that as well. So other questions? It seems like, tell you what, at this point, Catherine, I'll give you the opportunity to post any closing comments and then throw to Jean-Michel to close any comments of his own.
I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us today. I have to say it and say it again. We are really, really blown away by the amount of support that we have from the community in what we're doing here. We're hearing a lot of positive feedback and appreciation from our residents just about what we're doing here. And, a lot of that is because we've assembled a fantastic team of folks who are really, really committed to our mission. But a lot of that is that kind of extra piece that we are able to provide through the support of the community. So I just want to say thank you so much. And we look forward to hosting another one of these and hope you'll join us then too.
Wonderful. And Catherine, many of the comments are saying great job. So thank you for all you and your team and everyone you're working with over there is doing. So thank you. Jean-Michel, we'll give you the closing words then.
Yes, well, thank you all again for joining us this afternoon and for all the support you have given us. We really appreciate you, and we could never do this work without you. We're truly a community service provider, community-based organization. Catherine, congratulations. The work is tremendous at the Brooks, and you've assembled an exceptional team, and so we appreciate that also. Want to have a shout out for the Department of Human Services. That they are the folks in charge of the funding, and they help us run the Brooks. They're very well researched in terms of the service delivery in the short-term housing facilities for families. And we did have Jenna Sabasco, who is in charge of that program at DHS, on the call with us this afternoon. So again, thank you all for attending today, and we appreciate you very much.
Great. And next session we'll be doing is, I believe, 2 weeks from today. We're going to be talking with our veterans program in time for Veterans Day. So thank you again, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.